Hey guys, and tonight we're going to drift into the quiet, unsettling fog of history. Imagine you're standing on an empty shore as dusk settles, the waves pulling at the sand with a soft, repetitive sigh. The horizon is a blurry line between gray water and gray sky. Out there, in the vastness, a ship once sailed, an airplane once flew, a person once lived a life as vivid and real as your own. And then, they were simply not there. The story stopped mid-sentence, leaving a silence that echoes for decades, even centuries. We'll be stepping into those silences tonight, exploring the tales of those who walked out of the frame of history and never returned. This is a journey into the ultimate unknown, and let's be honest, in most of these scenarios, you probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get too comfortable, please do take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we do here. Feel free to post your city and what time it is for you in the comments below. It's always nice to see where everyone is tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some gentle, ambient hum, and let's just relax into tonight's journey together. You are floating. Below you, the Pacific Ocean is a vast, wrinkled blanket of the deepest blue, shimmering under a relentless sun. The drone of the twin Wasp engines of your Lockheed Electra 10E is a physical presence, a vibration that has worked its way deep into your bones over the last 17 hours. It's July 2nd, 1937. You are Amelia Earhart, and you are tired. A deep, soul-level weariness that dampens even your legendary optimism. You press your forehead against the cool glass of the cockpit window, the world outside a mesmerizing, terrifying emptiness. There is nothing but water. Water and sky, and you, a tiny metal speck suspended between them. Your navigator, Fred Noonan, is beside you, his face etched with concern as he recalculates his celestial navigation lines for the dozenth time. The charts are spread across his lap, a spiderweb of hope and mathematics. Your goal is a mere speck itself. Howland Island, a sliver of coral and sand barely 2 miles long and half a mile wide. Missing it isn't just an inconvenience. It's a death sentence. You key the microphone, your voice a little hoarse. KHQ calling Itasca. We must be on you, but cannot see you. The radio crackles back, but the signal is weak, distorted. The Coast Guard cutter Itasca is out there, waiting for you, burning fuel to send up a plume of smoke you're supposed to see. But the cloud cover is thicker than you anticipated. The sun, once your ally for navigation, is now a blinding glare, making it impossible to spot the smoke signal against the bright, hazy sky. This is a well-known fact of your final flight. The challenges of radio communication and weather prediction in the 1930s were immense. Your state-of-the-art plane had advanced radio equipment, but its most crucial antenna, a long trailing wire, was removed before this leg of the journey because it was considered cumbersome. A small decision with monumental consequences. You can feel the fuel gauges dipping, a silent, sickening countdown. Every minute that ticks by, your circle of possible locations shrinks, but the ocean remains stubbornly, uniformly indifferent. You and Fred exchange a look. Words are unnecessary. The unspoken reality hangs in the air, thick as the humid sea breeze. You are a global celebrity, the darling of the skies, the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. People compare your smile to Charles Lindbergh's. You've had ticker tape parades, you've shaken hands with presidents, but none of that matters now. Out here, you are just a pilot running out of time. You make another call, your voice steady, professional, but with an undercurrent of tension. We are circling but cannot see you. Here's a lesser-known curious detail. You were a poet. You wrote about the lanes of wind and the high, untrespassed sanctity of space. You weren't just a pilot. You were a romantic, drawn to the freedom and the stark beauty of the sky. In your pocket, you might have a folded, worn piece of paper with a few scribbled lines, a thought captured between storm clouds and stars. It's this human element, this quiet, artistic soul inside the famous aviator, that makes the silence that follows so profound. The world hears your voice, strained but controlled, reporting your position on the 157 to 337 line. Then, nothing. The crackle of the radio fades into the hiss of static. The hum of the Electra's engines vanishes from the airwaves. The search that follows is the largest and most expensive in naval history at the time. But it's like searching for a specific grain of sand on a vast beach. They find nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no life raft. It's as if the sky simply opened up and swallowed you whole. Historians still debate whether you and Fred simply ran out of fuel and crashed into the deep ocean, sinking without a trace, as the official U.S. Navy report concludes. Or did you manage to land on another uninhabited island, like Gardner Island, now Nikumaroro, surviving for a time as castaways? There are tantalizing, unconfirmed reports of skeletal remains found there, artifacts that could have belonged to a Western woman and man, and even stories from locals of a white couple who died on the island. A third, more conspiratorial theory suggests you were on a spy mission for President Roosevelt and were captured and executed by the Japanese. Each theory has its passionate advocates, its fragments of evidence, its haunting what-ifs. But as you sit there, in the cockpit, with the sun setting and the fuel running dry, all you know is the deep, profound blue of the water waiting below. The world holds its breath, waiting for a voice that will never come again. And the quiet settles in. The feeling of being utterly lost, of your known world shrinking to a single desperate point, is a primal fear. It's the same fear that grips you now, though the element is different. You're not in the sky, but on land, or what passes for it. The year is 1590. You are not a famous pilot, but an English sailor named John White. And your feet are finally on solid ground after a miserable, storm-tossed voyage across the Atlantic. But this is not the homecoming you've dreamt of for 3 long years. The air here on Roanoke Island is thick and cloying, heavy with the scent of damp earth, pine, and something else. An unnerving stillness. The settlement you helped found, the first English attempt at a permanent colony in the New World, is gone, vanished. You walk through the clearing where a bustling village of more than 100 men, women and children should be. There should be the smell of wood smoke, the sound of laughter, the cry of a baby. Specifically, your granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in the Americas. Instead, there is only the buzz of insects and the rustle of leaves in the humid breeze. It's an eerie, profound silence. You call out, your voice sounding small and weak against the vast, indifferent wilderness. Eleanor? Virginia? The names are swallowed by the trees. The cottages are gone, dismantled. The defensive palisade that surrounded the settlement is still standing, but there are no signs of a struggle. No bodies, no scorch marks, no scattered belongings hastily left behind. This is the common, chilling historical fact everyone knows about Roanoke. The entire colony disappeared, leaving behind only 2 cryptic clues. You and your shore party move cautiously through the empty space. Your heart is a cold, heavy stone in your chest. Before you left for England 3 years ago to gather more supplies, trip that was agonizingly delayed by the war with Spain and the looming threat of the Spanish Armada, you had agreed on a secret sign. If the colonists had to leave in distress, they were to carve a Maltese cross. You scanned the wooden posts of the palisade, your eyes desperate. And then you see it. Not a cross. Just a word, carved deep into the wood. Croatoan. Your breath catches. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, home to a friendly tribe of Native Americans led by Chief Manteo. It was a place of potential refuge. A flicker of hope. Perhaps they had simply relocated. Later, you find another carving on a tree. Crow. But the weather is turning. A major storm is brewing, and your ship's captain is anxious to leave. You're pleased to sail the 50 miles south to Croatoan Island, are denied. The anchor cable snaps, the expedition is aborted, and you are forced to sail back to England, leaving the fate of your daughter, your granddaughter, and the entire colony unresolved. You will never have the funds to return. You will die in Ireland, never knowing what happened. And so, the mystery is sealed. You, John White, are the last official English contact with the lost colony. Now for a peculiar, often overlooked detail. The colonists were not exactly master survivalists. Many were gentlemen and city dwellers, ill-equipped for the harsh realities of forging a life from the unforgiving coastal wilderness of North Carolina. There is evidence they struggled with food shortages and had increasingly tense relations with some of the local tribes, even before you left. One of their last documented acts was the preemptive, and likely mistaken, killing of a local chieftain. They weren't just victims of the unknown. They were participants in a complex and dangerous social landscape. Their survival kit, so to speak, was more hope than practical skill. It is not a stretch to imagine that their social missteps were as dangerous as any famine or disease. Think of it as the 16th century equivalent of showing up to a black tie, gala in a clown suit, and then wondering why no one wants to talk to you. The theories have swirled for over 400 years, a historical ghost story that refuses to rest. Historians still debate whether the colonists truly did move to Croatoan Island and assimilate with Mantios people, their English bloodline quietly merging into the Native American population. This is the most hopeful theory, supported by the Croatoan carving. Or were they wiped out by a less friendly tribe, perhaps the very one they had angered? Another theory posits that they tried to sail back to England on their own in a small boat and were lost at sea. Some even suggest they were killed by the Spanish, who had a nearby outpost in Florida and saw the English colony as a threat. More recently, archaeological digs have suggested the colonists may have split up into smaller groups, with some moving inland up the Chowan River. Small fragments of English pottery have been found at Native American sites miles away from Roanoke, tantalizing clues that point to integration rather than annihilation. But each clue is a whisper, not an answer. As you stand on that empty shore, the word Croatoan taunts you with a promise of reunion that you can never fulfill. The silence of the abandoned settlement becomes your life's defining sound, an emptiness that stretches across the ocean and across the centuries. The silence of an empty place where people should be is uniquely unsettling. It's one thing for a settlement to be reclaimed by nature, but it's another entirely for a vessel, a self-contained world, to be found perfectly adrift and perfectly empty. You are now a sailor, specifically a mate on the British brigantine De Gratia. The date is December 4th, 1872, and you're in the middle of the Atlantic, somewhere between the Azores and Portugal. The sea is calm, the sky a placid blue. It's been an uneventful voyage until your lookout spots another ship. It's a brigantine like yours, but it's sailing erratically, its sails slightly damaged and flapping in the breeze. As you draw closer, an eerie feeling descends upon your crew. There's no one at the helm, no one on the deck. You hail the ship. The only answer is the creak of its rigging and the slap of waves against its hull. Your captain, David Morehouse, recognizes the vessel. It's the Mary Celeste, an American ship that left New York 8 days before his own. He knows her captain, Benjamin Briggs, a respected, sober, and experienced sailor. Something is terribly wrong. You are part of the boarding party, and as your small boat pulls alongside the silent ship, the feeling of wrongness intensifies. You climb aboard, your boots thudding loudly on the quiet deck. The ship is fine. It's wet from sea spray, and there's about 3.5 feet of water in the hold, which is not unusual for a wooden ship of this era. But she is fundamentally sound, completely seaworthy. You and your shipmates move through the vessel like ghosts. The ship's log is in the mate's cabin. The last entry is dated 10 days prior, November 25th. It notes the ship's position as just off the Azores, about 400 nautical miles from where you found her. The entry contains nothing unusual. It's just a routine notation of weather and location. You check the cargo hold. The 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol, the ship's cargo, are all there intact. This immediately casts doubt on the idea of piracy, the most common threat of the day. Pirates would have surely taken, or at least broached the valuable cargo. This is the central, well-known fact of the Mary Celeste mystery. The ship was found in good condition, with its cargo untouched. You move to the crew's quarters. Their belongings are still there, their oilskin boots and pipes laid out as if they expected to return any moment. In the captain's cabin, you find his wife's sewing machine with a piece of needlework still in it, and a small harmonium organ. There are toys scattered about, belonging to their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. The scene is one of domestic tranquility, abruptly frozen in time. It's deeply, profoundly creepy. But there are a few odd things. The ship's only lifeboat is missing. The sextant and chronometer, vital navigational tools, are gone, and one of the 2 pumps has been disassembled. Why would an experienced captain abandon a perfectly good ship in the middle of the ocean? Hear us a bizarre and often forgotten tidbit about the ship herself. She seemed cursed from the start. Her original name was the Amazon, and under that name, her first captain died of pneumonia just days into her maiden voyage. She later ran into a fishing weir, collided with another ship in the English Channel, and ran aground in Nova Scotia, nearly bankrupting her owners. When she was salvaged and sold, her name was changed to Mary Celeste. It seems her bad luck was part of her very timbers. It's like buying a used car, and the previous owner tells you, "Yeah, it's a great car, just don't drive it on Tuesdays, or play any music by Nickelback. It tends to spontaneously combust." You'd be a little wary. Historians still debate what could have caused Captain Briggs to order his wife, child, and 7-man crew into a small lifeboat in the middle of the Atlantic. The leading theory revolves around the cargo. Although the barrels were intact, 9 of them were found empty. These barrels were made of red oak, which is more porous than white oak. It's possible that alcohol vapors leaked from these barrels and built up in the hold. Captain Briggs, fearing an imminent explosion, a rum boom, if you will, may have ordered everyone into the lifeboat, trailing the ship on a long tow line, waiting for the danger to pass. A sudden storm could have snapped the line, leaving them hopelessly separated from their ship. This would explain the missing lifeboat and navigational tools. Other theories range from a mutiny over a drunken captain, unlikely, as Briggs was a teetotaler, to a seaquake, to an attack by a giant squid. One of the more outlandish, yet persistent, theories involves a waterspout or some other freak. Weather event had either scared the crew off the ship or somehow scooped them right off the deck. But as you stand on that silent, rolling deck, the only thing you know for sure is that 10 people stepped off the ship and into oblivion. The Mary Celeste sails on, a floating tomb, a perfect mystery preserved in salt and silence. The silence of an abandoned ship is one kind of mystery, but the silence from within the stone walls of a fortress is another, more sinister kind. It speaks not of accident or nature's fury, but of human intention. You are now in London. The year is 1483. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke, damp wool, and political intrigue. You are not a sailor or a colonist. You are an observer, a fly on the cold stone wall of the Tower of London. But you are not just in any part of the tower. You are near the Garden Tower, later to be known as the Bloody Tower, and your focus is on 2 boys. They are Edward V, the 12-year-old King of England, and his 9-year-old brother, Richard, Duke of York. They are not here for a holiday. Their father, King Edward IV has recently died. Their uncle, Richard, Duke of Gloucester, has been named Lord Protector. He was supposed to guide the young king until he came of age. Instead, he brought the boys to the Tower, ostensibly for their protection ahead of Edward's coronation. But the coronation never happens. You see them occasionally, two small figures dressed in velvet, playing in the gardens or looking out from a barred window. They look pale, their laughter subdued. Then, sometime in the summer of 1483, you stop seeing them at all. The last confirmed sighting is of them shooting arrows in the courtyard. After that, they simply disappear. This is the famous, tragic heart of the story. The two young princes, heirs to the throne, were imprisoned in the Tower of London and then vanished. What happened next is one of England's most enduring and divisive historical mysteries. Their uncle, the Lord Protector, wastes little time. He has a priest declare the boys' parents' marriage invalid, thus making the children illegitimate and ineligible for the throne. With his nephews out of the way, he is crowned King Richard III. The official story is silence. The unofficial story, whispered in taverns and marketplaces, is murder. The popular narrative, later cemented by William Shakespeare's brilliant, if historically biased, play Richard III, is that Richard ordered the boys to be smothered in their sleep and their bodies secretly buried. You can almost feel the chill in the stone corridors. The Tower of London isn't just a fortress. It's a statement of power, a place where kings are made and unmade. Its very stones seem to absorb secrets. As autumn sets in, the whispers grow louder. Did Richard III, the classic villain with a hunched back and a withered arm, a detail likely exaggerated by his enemies, really kill his own nephews to secure the crown? The logic is brutal but clear. As long as the boys lived, they were a threat, a rallying point for his rivals. It's a classic case of medieval realpolitik, where a crown is worth more than a nephew's life. Or two. Now for a strange and intriguing tidbit. Nearly 200 years later, in 1674, workmen were demolishing a staircase in the White Tower. Underneath the stairs, they found a wooden chest containing the skeletons of two small children. Assuming they were the remains of the long-lost princes, King Charles II ordered them to be given a royal burial in Westminster Abbey, where they rest to this day. Case closed, right? Not exactly. In 1933, the bones were exhumed and examined. The examination concluded the skeletons were consistent with the ages of the two princes, but forensic science of the 1930s was rudimentary at best. Modern requests to re-examine the bones using DNA analysis have been denied by the Crown and the Church of England, leaving this crucial piece of evidence in a state of frustrating uncertainty. It's like finding a smoking gun, but being told you're not allowed to check if it has been fired. This is where the debate rages. Historians still debate whether Richard III was the cold-blooded murderer of legend or a victim of Tudor propaganda. After all, history is written by the victors. The man who defeated and killed Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field, Henry Tudor, who became Henry VII, had an even stronger motive to see the princes dead. If they were alive, his claim to the throne was weak. Some Ricardian historians argue that it was actually Henry VII, or one of his allies like the Duke of Buckingham, who was responsible for the boys' deaths. They might have been kept alive in secret by Richard and only killed after he fell from power. Another theory suggests that one or both boys escaped. In the years that followed, several young men, most famously Perkin Warbeck and Lambert Simnel, came forward claiming to be one of the lost princes, gathering support and challenging Henry VII's rule. While they were ultimately proven to be impostors, their ability to gain traction shows just how much uncertainty surrounded the prince's fate. The silence from the tower allowed these pretenders to flourish in the vacuum of knowledge. As you stand in the shadows of 15th century London, you realize the truth is locked away, as securely as the princes themselves, within the cold, silent stones of the tower. From the cold stone of a medieval tower, we leap forward 5 centuries into the pressurized cabin of a modern machine. But the themes of audacity, mystery, and a sudden, inexplicable vanishing remain the same. The air in here is stale, a mix of recycled oxygen and cigarette smoke. It's November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving. You are on Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a Boeing 727 flying from Portland to Seattle. It's a short, routine flight. The passengers are a mix of businessmen, families heading home for the holiday, and you. You are a man in your mid-40s, dressed in a dark suit, white shirt, and a black tie. You've given your name as Dan Cooper. You are calm, polite, almost nondescript. Shortly after takeoff, you hand a note to a flight attendant. She, thinking it's just a lonely businessman's phone number, slips it into her pocket. You lean closer. "Miss," you say quietly, "you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." She unfolds the paper. The note is written in neat, all-caps letters. She sits beside you, and you briefly open a briefcase, showing her a terrifying tangle of wires and red sticks. Your demands are simple and precise. $200,000 in negotiable American currency, 4 parachutes, 2 primary and 2 reserve, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle to refuel the plane upon arrival. You are so calm, so methodical, that the crew never doubts you for a second. This becomes the central, iconic fact of the D.B. Cooper legend, the sheer, cool-headed competence of the skyjacker. He wasn't a frantic fanatic. He was a professional. The plane lands in Seattle. The 36 passengers are exchanged for the money and parachutes. The cash is delivered in a heavy canvas bag, all $200,000 of it, in unmarked $20 bills. You allow the passengers to leave, a gesture of strange courtesy. You then instruct the flight crew on your new flight plan. You want them to fly towards Mexico City at a specific low altitude of 10,000 feet, with the landing gear down and wing flaps at 15 degrees, the lowest possible speed without stalling the aircraft. And crucially, you demand that the aft air stair, the retractable staircase at the tail of a 727, remain down. The pilots protest. It's not safe to fly with the stairs down. You are insistent. As the plane takes off again, heading into the stormy, pitch-black night, you are alone in the main cabin. You tell the flight attendant to go into the cockpit and not come out. That is the last anyone ever sees of you. Sometime after 8 p.m., over a rugged, forested area of southwestern Washington, a warning light flashes in the cockpit, indicating the aft air stair has been opened. The air pressure in the cabin changes. When the plane lands in Roanoke a few hours later to refuel, you are gone. The money is gone. 2 of the parachutes are gone. You, the man the media will mistakenly dub D.B. Cooper due to a misunderstanding with an early suspect, have jumped from a commercial airliner at 10,000 feet into a freezing storm over a treacherous wilderness and disappeared into American folklore. Here's a wonderfully weird tidbit. The FBI, in its exhaustive investigation, considered that Dan Cooper might be a fan of a popular French-Belgian comic book series. The hero of the comic? A Canadian Air Force pilot named Dan Cooper, who is depicted on several covers parachuting from planes. It's a tantalizingly specific detail. Imagine an FBI agent in a trench coat, grimly flipping through a comic book, looking for clues. This guy jumps from planes, ... and his name is Dan Cooper. Johnson, get me everything we have on Belgians. The manhunt was massive, one of the most extensive in U.S. history. The FBI chased thousands of leads, investigating over 800 suspects in the first 5 years alone. And they found ... nothing. Not a body, not a parachute, not a scrap of the money. For 9 years, the case was completely cold. Then, in 1980, A young boy on a family vacation, digging in the sand on the banks of the Columbia River, found 3 rotting bundles of cash. The serial numbers matched the Cooper ransom money, but the discovery only deepened the mystery. The money was found miles from the projected jump zone, and forensic analysis suggested it hadn't washed there, but had been deposited by the river's current. How did it get there? Did you lose some of it during the jump? Did you bury it and come back for it later? Or did you not survive the jump at all? Your body and the rest of the money lost forever to the wilderness. Historians still debate whether you could have possibly survived the jump. The conditions were atrocious. Freezing rain, 200 miles per hour winds from the jet, darkness and rugged, unforgiving terrain. You jumped with no helmet, no specialized gear, into a total unknown. Most experts believe survival was next to impossible. Yet no body was ever found. The alternative is that you were an experienced paratrooper, perhaps a disgruntled veteran with specialized skills who knew exactly what you were doing. You knew the 727's design, knew how to time the jump, and had a plan for survival on the ground. You became a folk hero to some, a symbol of rebellion against the man, the guy who pulled off the perfect crime and got away with it. You're the ultimate ghost, a man who stepped out of a plane and into a legend, leaving behind nothing but a name, a mystery, and a few bundles of rotting cash on a riverbank. Stepping out of a speeding jet into a storm is one way to vanish. But what about just fading away from a tiny, isolated rock in the middle of a churning sea? The transition feels natural, from the manufactured storm of a jet engine to the raw, natural fury of the North Atlantic. You are no longer a daredevil skyjacker, but a lighthouse keeper. It's December of 1900. Your world is a remote, uninhabited islet called Eilean Mor, one of the Flannan Isles, a lonely cluster of rocks off the west coast of Scotland. The lighthouse you tend is a new one, a marvel of engineering, a beacon of safety in these treacherous waters. You are one of 3 keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur. Your life is one of routine, solitude, and immense responsibility. The days leading up to your disappearance are marked by unusually severe weather. A powerful storm has been lashing the islands. On December 15th, a passing steamer, the Arctur, notes in its log that the Flannan Isles light is out, a serious and alarming failure. But the storm is too violent for anyone to attempt a landing. For nearly 2 weeks, the island is cut off from the world. Finally, on Boxing Day, December 26th, the relief vessel Hesperus arrives, carrying the replacement keeper, Joseph Moore. As the ship approaches, an uneasy quiet hangs over the island. There's no flag on the pole. No one comes down to the landing stage to greet them. The provision boxes for the keepers are still on the landing, untouched. Joseph Moore rows ashore, a knot of dread tightening in his stomach. He climbs the steep, winding steps to the lighthouse, his calls echoing unanswered. He finds the main door to the lighthouse unlocked. He pushes it open. The silence inside is absolute. In the entrance hall, he finds one of the keeper's oilskin coats still hanging on its peg. This is the first strange detail. Why would one of them go out into a raging storm without his protective gear? He proceeds to the kitchen. On the table, he finds a half-eaten meal of salted mutton and pickles, and an overturned chair. It's as if the keepers left in a sudden hurry, right in the middle of dinner. The clock on the wall has stopped. The beds are unmade. The whole place has an air of abrupt and total abandonment. This scene, the untouched meal, the single remaining coat, is the famous, chilling image at the heart of the Flannan Isles mystery. You, as Joseph Moore, ascend the winding staircase to the lamp room. Everything here is in perfect order. The lamp is clean and refilled with oil, ready to be lit. The brass is polished. The keepers had clearly done their duties before they vanished. You return to the boat, your face pale, to report the impossible. The lighthouse is empty. The three keepers are gone. A search of the tiny island reveals more strangeness. The western landing stage is severely damaged, with a supply box smashed open and its contents strewn about. A railway track on the cliff edge is twisted, and a large rock weighing over a ton has been dislodged and moved. The storm must have been of incredible, almost supernatural, force to cause such damage over 200 feet above sea level. And here is the obscure, haunting tidbit that adds a layer of psychological horror to the tale. The lighthouse logbook. The last few entries, supposedly written by Thomas Marshall, are bizarre. On December 12th, he writes of a severe storm, the likes of which he'd never seen in 20 years. He notes that James Duckett has been very quiet and that Donald MacArthur, a notoriously tough and brawling seaman, has been crying. The entry for December 13th says the storm still rages and that all three men have been praying. But why would three experienced lighthouse keepers, veterans of the sea, be so terrified of a storm, even a bad one? Weirder still, there were no reported storms in the area on the 12th or 13th. The bad weather didn't hit until the 14th. This has led many to believe the logbook entries were faked, after the fact to add a spooky element to the story. But if they are real, they suggest a terror that was more than just meteorological. The official explanation, concluded by the Northern Lighthouse Board superintendent, Robert Muirhead, is the most logical. He surmised that two of the keepers went down to the western landing to secure a crane during a lull in the storm. A massive, unexpected wave washed over the cliff, sweeping them into the sea. The third keeper, seeing this from the lighthouse, ran out to help them, leaving his coat and dinner behind in his haste, only to be swept away by another freak wave. It's a plausible, tragic scenario, but it doesn't quite satisfy. Historians still debate whether this freak wave theory is the whole story. Why would such experienced men put themselves in such a perilous position? Why the overturned chair? Why was MacArthur, the tough guy, reportedly weeping? Other theories abound. Were they driven mad by the isolation, a phenomenon known as cabin fever? Did a fight break out, resulting in a murder-suicide, where the culprit threw his mates and then himself into the sea? Or did something truly strange happen? Local legends speak of sea serpents, or the Phantom of the Seven Hunters, a mythical ghost boat. As you stand in that silent, orderly lighthouse, the overturned chair seems to accuse the emptiness, a small, violent disruption in a world of perfect, lonely routine. Three men, tasked with keeping a light burning, were extinguished themselves, their final moments known only to the wind and the waves. From the cold, windswept rocks of Scotland, our journey takes us to the snowy hills of West Virginia. The theme of a sudden, inexplicable emptiness remains, but this time, it's not a lonely outpost, but a family home. And it's not the sea that claims the missing, but fire. Or so it seems. It's Christmas Eve, 1945. You are in Fayetteville, West Virginia, in the home of George and Jenny Sauter and 9 of their 10 children. The atmosphere is festive. The older children, allowed to stay up late, are playing with new toys that Marion, the eldest daughter, has given them. The house smells of Christmas baking and pine. It's a picture of noisy, happy, working-class family life. George and Jenny eventually go to bed, leaving the older children to their fun. Around 1 of May, Jenny is woken by the phone ringing. It's a wrong number. As she's heading back to bed, she notices the lights are still on and the front door is unlocked. She sees Marion asleep on the living room couch and assumes the other kids who were up late have gone to their attic bedroom. She turns off the lights, locks the door, and goes back to sleep. An hour later, she's woken again, this time by a thud on the roof and then a rolling noise. She drifts back to sleep, but is woken a third time, around 1:30 a.m., by the smell of smoke. The house is on fire. You are now caught in the chaos and terror of that moment. George and Jenny, with 4 of their children, Marion, Sylvia, John, and George Jr., scramble out of the burning house. But 5 children, Morris, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, are trapped upstairs in the attic. Panic sets in. George smashes a window to re-enter the house, but is beaten back by the smoke and flames. He runs to get his ladder, which is normally propped against the side of the house. It's gone. He tries to start his 2 coal trucks to pull up to the house and climb onto the roof. Neither truck will start, despite having worked perfectly the day before. The phone line is dead. Jenny can't call the fire department. Someone has to run to a neighbor's house to make the call. By the time the fire department arrives, hours later hampered by the snow and, some say, a slow response, the Sodder family home has been reduced to a smoking basement filled with ash. This is the tragic, commonly known story. The Sodder house burned down on Christmas morning, and 5 of the children were presumed to have perished in the blaze. The fire chief and coroner conduct a cursory search of the ashes. They find no bones, no remains of any kind. They tell the grieving parents that the fire was hot enough to have completely cremated the bodies. The official cause of death is listed as fire or suffocation, and death certificates are issued. The family tries to accept this horrific tragedy, but the doubts begin to creep in, small inconsistencies that gnaw at George and Jenny. George, a practical man, can't understand why his ladder was missing or why his trucks wouldn't start. Jenny questions how a fire could have been hot enough to destroy all traces of bone, but leave household appliances and parts of the tin roof recognizable in the rubble. She had worked in a crematorium. She knew that bones often remain even after hours of intense heat. Here is an exceptionally strange and disturbing detail that fuels the family's suspicions. A few months after the fire, Jenny is cleaning up the site. She finds a small, hard, rubber-like object in the dirt. A local expert identifies it as a type of bomb, a pineapple bomb or hand grenade used in warfare. This, combined with the mysterious phone call, the missing ladder, the disabled trucks, and the strange thud on the roof, paints a picture not of a tragic accident, but of a deliberate act of arson and potentially abduction. It is like discovering the gas leak in her house was actually a lit stick of dynamite. The Sodders become convinced their children were not in the house. But if not, where did they go? George Sodder was an Italian immigrant who was outspokenly anti-Mussolini, and he had his share of arguments and enemies in the local community. Was this an act of revenge by the local mafia, who may have tried to extort him? Or was it related to a dispute with an insurance salesman who had threatened him months earlier? Historians still debate whether the children died in the fire or were kidnapped in a sophisticated plot. The Sodders spent the rest of their lives and their life savings trying to find out. They hired a private investigator who uncovered a bizarre story about the fire chief finding a human heart in the ashes, which he secretly buried in a box. This was later found and revealed to be beef liver, adding another layer of weirdness. They put up a billboard on Route 16 with pictures of the 5 missing children, offering a reward for information. The billboard became a local landmark, a permanent public display of a family's unending grief and hope. Over the years, tips came in. A woman claimed to have seen the children in a car looking out at the fire. A hotel worker in Charleston said she saw them with a group of Italian adults a week later. The most tantalizing clue came in 1967, when Jenny received a letter postmarked in Kentucky containing a photo of a young man in his 20s who bore a striking resemblance to her son Louis. On the back was a cryptic, handwritten note. The Sodders believed it was their son, but the trail went cold. The billboard stood until Jenny's death in 1989, a silent testament to a mystery that started in fire and ended in a lifetime of unanswered questions. The loss of children in a fire is a visceral, horrifying mystery contained within a single night. But some disappearances happen in broad daylight, in full view of witnesses, and are no less baffling. We leave the snowy hills of West Virginia for the sun-drenched coast of Australia. You are standing on Cheviot Beach near Portsea, Victoria. The sun is bright, the waves are crashing, and the date is December 17th, 1967. You are not just anyone. You are Harold Holt, the 17th Prime Minister of Australia. You are 59 years old, known for your energetic, charismatic personality and your love of the ocean. You're a strong swimmer and an avid spearfisherman. Today, you are here with friends, enjoying a weekend away from the pressures of Canberra. The water looks rough, the surf is high, the tide strong. Your friends advise against going in, but you are confident, perhaps overly so. I know this beach like the back of my hand, you reportedly say. You wade into the turbulent water for a swim, just as you've done countless times before. Your friends watch from the shore. They see you swimming, and then they don't. You are there one moment, a familiar figure in the churning waves, and the next you are gone, swallowed by the sea. Your friends watch, horrified, as the water where you were last seen becomes empty. There's no cry for help, no struggle, just a sudden, complete absence. This is the shocking, common knowledge about Harold Holt's disappearance. A sitting prime minister went for a swim and simply vanished. The immediate reaction is disbelief, followed by a massive search and rescue operation. It becomes one of the largest in Australian history. Navy divers, police, helicopters, and local volunteers scour the coastline for days. They search the rough seas, the rocky shoreline, the nearby coves. They find nothing. Not a body, not even a scrap of your swimming trunks. The ocean that you loved so much has seemingly claimed you without a trace. 2 days later, with no hope of finding you alive, the government officially presumes you dead. The nation is in shock. How could this happen? How could a leader, a man of such vitality, just disappear? The official theory is straightforward and tragic. You overestimated your swimming ability, got caught in a powerful rip current, and were pulled under and drowned. Your body was likely swept out to sea, or perhaps wedged in one of the many underwater caves and crevices that dot the area. Cheviot Beach is known for its dangerous currents and rough conditions. It was a simple, tragic accident, a case of a man's confidence exceeding the ocean's tolerance. But this simple explanation has never satisfied everyone, especially given your high-profile position. And here's where we find our unusual, and in this case, political tidbit. At the time of your disappearance, you were facing significant political pressure. You were a staunch supporter of the United States' involvement in the Vietnam War, a position that was becoming increasingly unpopular in Australia. You had famously declared you were all the way with LBJ, President Lyndon B. Johnson. This controversial stance led to the birth of numerous conspiracy theories. Was your disappearance an assassination? Was it staged? The theories were wild. One popular book, The Holt Report, published in 1983, sensationally claimed you were a spy for the People's Republic of China and that you did undrown, but were picked up by a Chinese submarine and spirited away to Beijing. This theory, though widely discredited, captured the public imagination. The idea of a prime minister faking his own death to defect to a communist country is certainly more exciting than a simple drowning. It's the ultimate political mic drop. And this leads to the ongoing historical debate. Historians still debate the plausibility of these alternative theories versus the simple drowning narrative, while the vast majority of credible historians and investigators accept the accidental drowning theory. The lack of a body leaves the door open, just a crack for speculation. Was it suicide? You were reportedly in good spirits, but the pressures of leadership are immense. Could you have been taken by a shark? It's possible, but shark attacks usually leave evidence. Could you have faked your own death to escape with a secret lover? This theory also made the rounds, a romantic soap opera twist on a national tragedy. The Chinese submarine theory, while entertaining, has no evidence to support it. Yet the phrase, "to do a Harry Holt," has entered the Australian lexicon, meaning to disappear suddenly or bolt. It's a testament to how deeply your vanishing is ingrained in national psyche. The story became a sort of national Rorschach test. What you believe happened to Harold Holt says a lot about your views on government, conspiracy, and the power of the sea. But as your friends stand on that beach, staring at the empty, churning water, all they know is that their friend, the Prime Minister of Australia, waded into the waves and was erased from the world. From a leader lost to the waves in the 20th century, we travel back to the early 19th, to another prominent figure who vanished at sea, her story wrapped in political intrigue and personal tragedy. The year is 1813. You are standing on a dock in Georgetown, South Carolina, the air heavy with salt and the tension of war. The War of 1812 is raging, and British warships patrol the coast, making sea travel a dangerous gamble. You are Theodosia Burr Alston, a woman of remarkable intellect, grace, and impeccable social standing. You are the daughter of Aaron Burr, the former Vice President of the United States, a man whose reputation was shattered after his infamous duel with Alexander Hamilton and his subsequent trial for treason. Your life has been one of privilege and pain. You are highly educated, fluent in several languages, and your father's closest confidant. But you are also grieving. Your young son has recently died of a fever, a loss that has left you in a state of profound depression. Your own health is failing. You are now making a perilous journey north to New York to be with your beloved father. Your husband, the governor of South Carolina, cannot accompany you. You board a small, swift schooner called the Patriot. It is a former privateer, built for speed, and it is hoped it can outrun any British blockaders. You say your goodbyes. The Patriot unfurls its sails and heads out into the Atlantic. It is the last time anyone ever sees you or the ship. The Patriot and all aboard you, the crew, the pilot vanish without a trace. There is no wreckage, no distress signal, no word, just silence. In the weeks and months that follow, your father, Aaron Burr, and your husband wait in agony for news that never comes. The war provides a ready explanation. The most common and accepted historical fact is that the Patriot was caught in a severe storm that swept the coast shortly after its departure and was lost with all hands. It is a sad but entirely plausible fate for a small ship in the winter North Atlantic during wartime. Alternatively, it could have been captured by one of the British ships blockading the coast, its crew and single passenger taken as prisoners of war, though no record of such a capture exists. The lack of any definitive evidence, however, opened the door to a host of other, more dramatic and sinister theories. Your disappearance became a national sensation, a romantic and tragic mystery. And this is where the legends begin, fueled by whispers and strange deathbed confessions. For years, stories circulated about the Patriot being captured not by the British, but by pirates. This theory gained so much traction that it almost became a part of the accepted folklore. According to this narrative, the pirates murdered the crew and made you, the elegant and beautiful Theodosia, walk the plank. It's a gruesome, dramatic image, straight out of a storybook. Now, for the really peculiar and specific tidbit that gives this pirate theory a strange sort of life. Decades later, in the 1830s, a doctor in Nag's Head, North Carolina, a remote area known for shipwrecks and scavengers called wreckers, was called to the humble home of an old, ailing woman. The woman, knowing she was dying, wanted to give the doctor something for his services. She couldn't offer money, but she pointed to a fine oil painting of a woman that was hanging on her wall. She confessed that many years ago, her husband had been part of a group that scavenged a ship that had come ashore in a storm. They found everyone on board dead, except for one young woman whom they forced to walk the plank. The painting was part of their loot. The doctor took the portrait. Years later, it was shown to members of the Burr family, who reportedly identified the striking subject as none other than Theodosia Burr Alston. The painting, now known as the Nag's Head Portrait, still exists, though its authenticity is hotly debated. This is the central conflict in your story. Historians still debate whether the Patriot fell victim to pirates or simply to a storm. The pirate story, with its dramatic confessions and the mysterious portrait, is compelling and has persisted for over 2 centuries. It provides a villain and a narrative arc. There were even multiple deathbed confessions over the years from old sailors claiming to have been on the pirate ship that took the Patriot. However, most serious historians dismiss these as tall tales. The confessions are contradictory, and the story of the Nag's Head woman and the painting has all the hallmarks of a romantic local legend. The more mundane explanation that the ship simply sank in a storm is far more likely, but far less satisfying. It lacks the human drama, the sense of a final, defiant act. It leaves only a cold, empty ocean. But as you board the Patriot, clutching your letters and mementos, weighed down by grief, you are sailing into that void. Whether your end came with the roar of a cannon or the roar of the wind and waves, the result was the same. A brilliant life extinguished, leaving behind a legacy of what-ifs and a portrait that may or may not hold a terrible secret. From a single ship lost to the sea, we expand our view to an entire legion of soldiers lost to the mists of history. The scale is vastly different, but the core mystery is the same. A large group of people marches off the map and is never heard from again. You are a Roman legionary, a soldier in the prestigious Legio IX Hispana, the 9th Spanish Legion. The year is sometime after 108 AD. You are stationed in Ebracum, modern-day York, in the damp, chilly province of Britannia. Your legion has a long and storied history, having fought alongside Julius Caesar in Gaul. You are tough, disciplined, and part of the most formidable fighting force the world has ever known. Your world is one of cold rain, rough wool cloaks, and the ever-present threat of the barbarians. To the north, the fierce tribes of Caledonia, what is now Scotland. The northern frontier of the Roman Empire is a place of constant low-level warfare. Forts are built, attacked, and rebuilt. Patrols go out and sometimes don't come back. It's a hard, grinding existence, a world away from the sun-drenched hills of Spain where your legion was first raised. You and your 5,000 comrades are the fist of Rome at the edge of the known world. And then, at some point around the year 117 AD, the historical record of your legion in Britain simply stops. The 9th Legion, a cornerstone of the Roman military presence for decades, vanishes from all known records. This disappearance is the central historical fact, a puzzle that has intrigued scholars for centuries. The last definitive record of the 9th in Britain is an inscription on a rebuilt fortress gate in York, dated 108 AD. After that, silence. What happened to 5,000 of the world's most elite soldiers? The traditional and most popular theory, immortalized in the novel The Eagle of the Ninth, is that the legion marched north into the mists of Caledonia to quell a rebellion and was utterly annihilated by the northern tribes. The entire legion wiped out in a single catastrophic defeat. This theory neatly explains their sudden disappearance and also provides a compelling reason for the construction of Hadrian's Wall a few years later. In 122 AD, the wall, according to this view, was built not just to mark a border, but to contain the ferocious tribes who had destroyed an entire legion. It's a powerful, romantic narrative of hubris and disaster at the empire's edge. You can almost feel the dread of that final march. The thick fog clinging to the heather-covered hills, the chilling war cries of an unseen enemy, the disciplined Roman squares breaking under a chaotic, ferocious assault. The loss of a legion's eagle standard was the ultimate disgrace. And the idea that the ninth S-eagle was lost in the wilds of Scotland is a potent symbol of Roman failure. However, modern scholarship has cast considerable doubt on this dramatic theory. And here is the obscure tidbit that complicates the story. Fragments of evidence have emerged suggesting that detachments, or vexellations, of the Ninth Legion were serving elsewhere in the empire after they supposedly vanished in Britain. Inscriptions found in the Netherlands seem to list soldiers of the Ninth, suggesting at least part of the Legion was transferred to the Rhine frontier around 120 A.D. Other evidence, though more contentious, places members of the Ninth in Judea and even Armenia later in the 2nd century. It is like finding out a company that supposedly went bankrupt in New York was actually still quietly operating a branch office in Amsterdam. This has led to a major historical reassessment. Historians still debate whether the Ninth Legion was destroyed in Britain or was simply disbanded and its soldiers reassigned. The annihilation theory, while cinematically appealing, has little direct archaeological evidence to support it. No mass graves of Roman soldiers from this period have been found in Scotland. No legionary eagle has ever been unearthed. The alternative theory is much more mundane, but perhaps more historically likely. The Legion may have suffered heavy casualties in prolonged fighting in Britain, become severely under strength, and was either withdrawn and restationed on a quieter front, or simply disbanded, its remaining soldiers absorbed into other legions. The disappearance from the records wouldn't be because they were all dead, but because the Legion, as a corporate entity, ceased to exist. It was an administrative decision, not a military catastrophe. Another theory splits the difference. Perhaps the Legion was indeed defeated and took heavy losses in the north, losing its eagle and its honor. As a disgraced unit, it was quietly moved to a less prestigious post, like the Rhine frontier, and eventually faded from history, its name a source of shame rather than pride. The truth is likely buried under 2 millennia of soil and speculation, but the image of the lost Legion remains powerful. As you stand in your hobnailed sandals, the cold British rain soaking your cloak, you look north towards the misty hills. You don't know if you are marching towards a glorious victory, a brutal end, or a quiet administrative transfer to a forgotten corner of the empire. All you know is that you are marching out of the pages of history, into a fog as thick and as permanent as any that ever shrouded the Scottish Highlands. From the fog of ancient Britain to the bright lights of 1930s New York City, a method of disappearance changes, but the abruptness remains. This time, it's not a legion, but a single, high-profile man who steps out for a night on the town and never comes home. You are in the heart of Manhattan. The year is 1930. The air is electric with the sounds of jazz, the rumble of the subway, and the nervous energy of a city in the grip of the Great Depression. You are Judge Joseph Force Crater, a New York Supreme Court Justice. You are 41 years old, handsome, successful, and a man with a bright future. You are a well-known figure in the city's political machine, Tammany Hall, and you have a reputation as a dapper man about town, a lover of Broadway shows and showgirls. On the evening of August 6, 1930, you have dinner with a lawyer friend and a showgirl acquaintance, Sally Lou Ritz, at a chop house on West 45th Street. By all accounts, you are in a fine mood. After dinner, you tell your companions you're off to see a comedy show on Broadway. You step out of the restaurant into the bustling theater district, hail a taxi, wave goodbye, and vanish. You are last seen walking down the street, just another man in a hat and suit, swallowed by the New York crowd. But you are not just another man. You are a judge, a powerful and connected figure, and your disappearance will become one of the most famous missing person cases of the 20th century. For 10 days, no one even realizes you're gone. Your wife is away at your summer home in Maine. Your colleagues assume you're on vacation. It's only when your wife returns and finds you missing that the alarm is raised. The police investigation that follows uncovers a strange and sordid secret life. The respectable judge, it turns out, was living a double life. He had a secret apartment, a safe deposit box stuffed with cash, and a string of mistresses. He was also deeply entangled in the corrupt world of Tammany Hall politics, a world of bribery, kickbacks, and secrets. This is the well-known context of your case. Your disappearance was not just a random event, but was deeply tied to the corrupt underbelly of New York City politics. The police investigation turns into a media circus. You are dubbed the missingest man in New York. The story is on the front page of every newspaper. The police drag rivers, search speakeasies, and question hundreds of people, from high-powered politicians to chorus girls. They find tantalizing clues that only deepen the mystery. They discover that just before you vanished, you had withdrawn large sums of money from your bank accounts. You had also taken stacks of files and documents from your office, telling your clerk you were taking them to your summer home. But the files never arrived. What was in those documents? Evidence of corruption that could bring down powerful people? And here we have a truly bizarre tidbit that points towards a planned disappearance. After you vanish, your wife finds several envelopes in your bedroom dresser. They are stuffed with cash thousands of dollars and a hastily scribbled note from you. The note is cryptic, mentioning a duty to make a political shambles of someone and ending with the line, "I am very weary. Love, Joe." It also mentions a safe deposit box. When the police open the box, they find it empty. It was emptied just a few days before you disappeared. This wasn't a man ambushed on his way to the theater. This was a man setting his affairs in order, either for a long trip or for his own demise. It's like leaving a breakup note that has also a treasure map to an empty chest. This is the crux of the endless speculation. Historians still debate whether you were a victim of a mob hit or the architect of your own elaborate escape. The murder theory is compelling. Did you know too much? Were those missing files your death warrant? Were you about to blow the whistle on a massive corruption scandal, and the powerful men of Tammany Hall had you silenced? Maybe you were killed by a gangster lover of one of your showgirl mistresses. It was Prohibition-era New York, after all. Life was cheap, and justice was often delivered from the barrel of a gun. The theory holds that your body was disposed of efficiently and permanently, perhaps encased in concrete and dropped in the East River, or buried under the boardwalks of Coney Island. The alternative theory is that you staged your own disappearance. Perhaps the corruption investigation was closing in on you, and you decided to flee rather than face disgrace in prison. With your secret cash reserves, you could have easily created a new identity and started a new life somewhere far away. Canada, Cuba, anywhere. For decades, crater sightings were reported from all over the world. He was seen dealing cards in an Arizona casino, living on a remote Pacific island, or driving a taxi in Chicago. None of these sightings were ever confirmed. The case remained stubbornly open, a source of endless fascination. In 2005, a new lead emerged when a woman who had recently died left behind a handwritten note claiming that her husband and his brothers, one of whom was a police officer, had murdered you and buried your body under the Coney Island boardwalk. But again, no body was found, and the story couldn't be verified. You simply walked into the New York night and became a ghost, a cautionary tale of a man who flew too close to the bright, dangerous lights of the city. From the concrete jungle of New York, we plunge into the real thing, the dense, suffocating, and uncharted rainforest of the Amazon. The desire for a hidden world, a place of secrets, is a powerful lure, whether it's a secret life in the city or a lost civilization in the jungle. You are Colonel Percy Fawcett, a British artillery officer, archaeologist, and renowned explorer. It is 1925. You are a man possessed by an obsession. For years, you have been convinced that a great, ancient civilization, a lost city of incredible sophistication, lies hidden deep within the unexplored Mato Grosso region of Brazil. You call this city Z. Your belief is not based on pure fantasy. You have found fragments of strange pottery and seen tantalizing clues during your previous grueling expeditions into the jungle. You have studied old Portuguese documents that speak of a magnificent stone city seen by explorers centuries ago. In an age when much of the world has been mapped and claimed, the Amazon remains one of the last great blanks on the map, a place where anything seems possible. You are a figure of heroic proportions, tough, fearless, with an almost mystical belief in your own destiny. You are the real-life inspiration for characters like Indiana Jones. This is your defining historical image, the determined, almost fanatical explorer searching for a lost city. You are about to embark on your final, most ambitious expedition. You are accompanied by your eldest son, Jack, and his friend, Raleigh Rimmel. Your plan is to travel light, to live off the land, and to move quickly, trusting in your years of experience and your good relations with some of the local indigenous tribes. You have secured funding from newspapers and geographical societies. The world is watching. Before you leave, you make a strange and fateful declaration. If you do not return, no rescue expedition should be sent. You argue that the jungle is too dangerous, and a rescue party would only meet the same fate as you. It's a noble sentiment, but also a chilling piece of foreshadowing. You and your small party venture into the jungle. For several months, your dispatches make their way back to civilization. Your letters are full of hardship, but also optimism. You describe the swarms of insects, the difficult terrain, the encounters with wildlife. The final communication is a letter from you, carried out by a native runner, dated May 29th, 1925. In it, you write from a place called Dead Horse Camp, so named because your horse died there on a previous trip. You are upbeat, confident that you are on the verge of a major discovery, and you send a message to your wife that you will be in touch again via a runner from one of the tribes. That is the last anyone ever hears from you, your son or Raleigh Rimmel. The jungle, which you believed held the key to your life's work, swallows you whole. The silence that follows is deafening. Despite your wishes, your disappearance becomes an international sensation, and dozens of rescue expeditions are launched over the next several decades. They are a catalog of failure and tragedy. It is estimated that over 100 people have died or disappeared themselves while searching for you. The jungle jealously guards its secrets. And this brings us to a grimly ironic tidbit. Your own warning against rescue missions became a self-fulfilling prophecy, creating a faucet curse that lured scores of other adventurers to their doom. It is as if you posted a do not enter sign that everyone interpreted as an invitation to a deadly party. The fate of your expedition is one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of exploration. Historians still debate what happened to you and your companions. Were you killed by one of the hostile indigenous tribes in the area? This is a strong possibility. You were entering territory controlled by tribes who had little or no contact with the outside world and were known to be wary of intruders. Several later expeditions heard stories from local tribes about 3 white men who were killed for offending them. One tribe, the Kalapalas, told a detailed story of seeing you and your party, warning you not to enter the territory of the fierce Indians, and that you ignored their advice. They claimed to have seen the smoke from your campfire for 5 days, and then it stopped. Another theory is that you simply succumbed to the perils of the jungle disease, starvation, or an accident. It was an incredibly dangerous environment, and even for an experienced explorer like yourself, a single mistake could be fatal. A third, more romantic theory is that you actually found the lost city of Z. Proponents of this idea suggest you and your sons chose to live there, cut off from the outside world, or were perhaps held there, willingly or unwillingly, as honored guests or prisoners of a reclusive society. This theory was fueled for a time by a strange esoteric cult called the Theosophical Society, which believed you were destined to find a mystical city. In recent years, archaeological work in the very region you are exploring has revealed the existence of large, complex, pre-Columbian settlements with roads, bridges, and plazas, all hidden under the jungle canopy. It wasn't a single city of stone like you imagined, but a network of garden cities. You weren't wrong about a lost civilization. You were just wrong about what it looked like. It's a final, poignant twist. You may have been standing right on top of your discovery without ever knowing it. A man searching for El Dorado who was, in fact, already standing in the city of gold. The lure of the unknown, whether in a jungle or on the open ocean, is timeless. From Percy Fawcett's quest in 1925, we fast forward to our own century, to a modern vessel and a mystery that feels eerily familiar. You are on the azure waters of the Coral Sea, off the coast of Queensland, Australia. The year is 2007. The sun is warm, a gentle breeze is blowing, and you are aboard a 12-meter catamaran, the Kaz 2. It's a comfortable, modern yacht, equipped with GPS, radio, and all the conveniences of 21st century sailing. You are one of three friends Derek Batten, the boat's owner, and his neighbors, brothers Peter and James Tunstead. You are all experienced sailors in your 50s and 60s, on what should be a leisurely trip up the coast of Australia. On April 18th, you are spotted by a helicopter, drifting in the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. Your sails are up, but the boat is moving aimlessly. The engine is running. When maritime authorities board the vessel a few days later, they are met with a scene of unsettling normalcy and profound emptiness. The Kaz 2 is in perfect working order. There is no sign of a struggle, no damage to the boat. On a table below deck, a laptop is open and running. The GPS is on, the radio is working. Food is laid out on the table, ready to be eaten. Fishing lines are neatly trailed over the side of the boat. All the personal belongings of the three men wallets, phones, clothes are right where they should be. The boat's dinghy is still hoisted in its proper place. The life jackets are all still stowed, but the three men are gone. The boat is pristine, yet crewless. The media immediately dubs it the Ghost Yacht, a modern-day Mary Celeste. This is the central fact of the Kaz, the second mystery. A perfectly fine, modern vessel found abandoned for no apparent reason. The investigation begins. The last known contact was a radio call made by one of the men to his wife on April 15th, 3 days before the boat was spotted adrift. They were in good spirits. Everything was normal. Analysis of the GPS data shows the boat's movements. Everything seems routine until the afternoon of the 15th. Then the boat's track becomes erratic, drifting with the currents. Something happened on that Sunday afternoon. But what? The coroner's inquest pieces together a plausible, but ultimately unprovable, sequence of events. And here is the specific mundane tidbit that may hold the key to the entire mystery. A video camera was found on board. The footage, shot by the men themselves on the morning of their disappearance, shows them happy and relaxed. It shows the sea is calm. Critically, the last bit of footage, timestamped at 10:05 a.m. on April 15th, shows one of the men, Peter Tunstead, at the back of the boat, preparing to fish. He has a fishing lure in his hand. The coroner's theory, based on this footage and the state of the boat, is a cascade of tragic accidents. He speculates that Peter, the man with the lure, got his fishing line snagged. While trying to free it, he slipped and fell overboard. His brother, James, seeing this, dived in to save him, without thinking to grab a life jacket. The boat, with its engine idling and sails up, would have begun to drift away from them faster than they could swim. Derek Batten, the skipper, seeing his two friends in the water and in trouble, would have rushed to turn the boat around. In his haste, as he moved around the deck, a swinging boom or an unexpected wave could have knocked him overboard as well. Within minutes, all three experienced men would be in the water, watching their perfectly good boat sail away from them. A slow, silent, and fatal separation. Remember Harold Holt? It's another story of the ocean's deceptive power, how a calm day can turn deadly in an instant. It's a logical and heartbreaking scenario, but it is just a theory. There are no witnesses. There is no definitive proof. And so, historians and armchair detectives still debate the freak accident theory. Are there other possibilities? Some have suggested foul play, but there was no evidence of another boat having been alongside the Kaz II, and nothing was stolen. A mutiny or a fight seems incredibly unlikely, given the men were longtime friends and neighbors on a pleasure cruise. Could they have been surprised by a sudden freak squall that washed them all overboard simultaneously? Possible, but the boat was in too neat a condition. Could they have stumbled upon something illegal, like a drug smuggling operation, and been silenced? It's a plot from a thriller novel, but in the vast, empty spaces of the ocean, anything can feel possible. The most unsettling part of the Kaz II story is its modernity. These men weren't relying on celestial navigation like Fred Noonan, or on centuries-old maps like Percy Fawcett. They had GPS. They had radios. They had all the technology designed to make them safe. And yet, the ocean's oldest and simplest dangers, a slip, a fall, a current, were all it took to erase them. It's a chilling reminder that for all our advancements, we are still small and fragile in the face of the natural world. As you stand on the deck of that silent, drifting catamaran, the half-made lunch on the table below is a testament to a moment of life interrupted. The boat sails on, a perfect machine without a soul, a ghost on the sunny blue water. From a mystery captured on digital video, we rewind to a mystery born at the very dawn of the moving image. The theme of a journey abruptly ended continues, but this time the journey is on a train, and the man disappearing is the one who may have invented the cinema itself. You are Louis Le Prince, a French artist, engineer, and inventor. The year is 1890. You are a man on the cusp of greatness. For years, you have been working tirelessly in your workshop in Leeds, England, developing a single-lens camera capable of capturing and projecting moving pictures. And you have succeeded. In 1888, 2 years ago, you filmed short, fleeting sequences of your family in a garden, of traffic crossing Leeds Bridge. They are arguably the world's first true motion pictures. You have patented your invention in both the US and the UK. You are now preparing for the next crucial step, a public demonstration in New York City that will unveil your creation to the world and secure your place in history. You are poised to become a household name, the father of a new art form. In September of 1890, before sailing to America, you take a trip to your native France to visit your brother Albert in Dijon. On September 16th, after a pleasant visit, your brother accompanies you to the Dijon train station. He watches as you board the express train bound for Paris, where you are expected to meet friends. You wave goodbye from the window of your carriage. The train pulls away from the station, and you are never seen again. When the train arrives in Paris, you are not on it. Your friends wait, but you never appear. An investigation is launched. The French police and Scotland Yard are baffled. It seems impossible for a man to vanish from a moving train. Your carriage was not a through corridor car. You would have had to pass other passengers in the aisle to get off. No one saw you. The train made no unscheduled stops between Dijon and Paris. The windows of your compartment were closed and locked from the inside. Your luggage, containing your precious camera designs and patents, also vanished with you. There was no sign of a struggle, no evidence of foul play found on the train. You simply ceased to be. This is the core, confounding fact of your disappearance. A man and his luggage dematerialized from a sealed, moving train. The theories about your fate are as dramatic and complex as any film plot. The official police theory was suicide. Perhaps despondent over debts or the pressures of your work, you somehow managed to open the window and throw yourself from the train into the night. But your family vehemently rejected this. You were on the verge of your greatest triumph, and by all accounts, you were in good spirits. Why would you end your life at the moment of your success? And how would that explain the disappearance of your heavy luggage? This leads to the more sinister theories, which revolve around your invention. And here is a very specific and highly suspicious tidbit. Your main rival in the race to invent cinema was none other than Thomas Edison. Edison was a notoriously ruthless businessman who was also working on his own motion picture device, the kinetoscope. He was known for aggressively defending his patents and crushing his competition. Did Edison, fearing that your superior single-lens system would eclipse his own device, arrange to have you disappeared to steal or suppress your invention? It's a compelling conspiracy theory. The idea that the Wizard of Menlo Park had a dark side, that he would resort to assassination to maintain his technological dominance, is a shocking one. You were in a high-stakes game, and perhaps you were removed from the board. Historians still debate whether your disappearance was a result of industrial espionage, a family dispute, or a simple, tragic accident. The family dispute theory is another strong contender. You were in the middle of a legal battle with your own family over your mother's will. Your brother, Albert, the last person to see you alive, stood to gain financially if you were gone. Did he murder you before you even got on the train and simply lie about seeing you off? Or did he arrange for an accomplice to deal with you on the journey? The fratricide for inheritance plot is as old as time itself. Another theory suggests you were a brilliant but flawed inventor who was deeply in debt. Perhaps you staged your own disappearance to escape your financial troubles and start a new life under a new name, funded by a secret sale of your patents. The final, and perhaps saddest, possibility is that you were simply the victim of a random robbery and murder. Someone on the train could have seen you as a wealthy-looking target, killed you for your money, and thrown your body and luggage from the train at some point during the journey. In 1890, train travel wasn't as secure as it is today. In 2003, a police archive photo from 1890 was discovered, showing a drowned man pulled from the Seine who bore a resemblance to you, but a definitive identification was impossible. Because you vanished, your public demonstration never happened. The world moved on. A few years later, the Lumiere brothers held their famous first public film screening in Paris, and Thomas Edison marketed his kinetoscope. They, not you, became the celebrated pioneers of cinema. Your name was largely forgotten. A footnote in the history you should have written. You became a ghost in your own machine. The inventor erased from his own invention. From the mechanical confines of a 19th century train, our final journey takes us to a place defined not by a single event, but by a pattern of disappearances, a patch of wilderness that seems to swallow people. We are in southwestern Vermont, in the shadow of Glastonbury Mountain. This area, encompassing the old, nearly abandoned logging town of Glastonbury and its surrounding woods, is known as the Bennington Triangle. It's not a place of a single famous vanishing, but a window area where, between 1945 and 1950, at least 5 people walked into the woods and were never seen again. Our story here begins in November 1945. You are Mitty Rivers, a 74-year-old hunting and fishing guide. You know these woods like the back of your hand, the same way Harold Holt knew his beach. You are leading a group of 4 hunters up the mountain. On the way back, you get slightly ahead of your group, turn a bend in the trail, and that's it. The hunters following just moments behind you find no trace of you. An extensive search is mounted, but they find only a single rifle cartridge in a stream bed. You, the experienced woodsman, have vanished on a trail you've walked 100 times. A year later, in December 1946, You are Paula Jean Weldon, an 18-year-old sophomore at Bennington College. You tell your roommate you're going for a long walk. You are seen by several people, including a local man who gives you directions, as you head onto the long trail, which cuts through the Glastonbury wilderness. You are dressed for a hike, but not for a long stay, just a light jacket, jeans, and sneakers. You are seen rounding a corner on the trail, and then you are gone. The search for you is massive, involving the FBI, but it turns up nothing. The lack of evidence leads to theories ranging from you running away to Canada with a secret boyfriend to being a victim of a local serial killer. But no evidence supports any theory. You simply walked away. 3 years pass. Then, in December 1949, you are a veteran soldier named James Tedford. You are on a bus, returning to your home at the Bennington Soldiers' Home. You were last seen by other passengers, dozing in your seat, just one stop before your destination. When the bus arrived in Bennington, your seat was empty. All your luggage was still on the overhead rack. Your wallet was on your open seat. You had vanished from a moving bus, just like Louis Le Prince from his train. It seemed impossible. Witnesses confirmed the bus made no stops between where you were last seen and your destination. This is the common thread of the Bennington Triangle, the baffling, almost supernatural nature of the disappearances. The final 2 cases happen in quick succession in 1950. In October, you are 8-year-old Paul Jeffson. You are with your mother in a truck. She leaves you playing happily near a pigsty while she feeds the animals. She is gone for less than an hour. When she returns, you are gone. Bloodhounds are brought in. They track your scent to a specific spot in a local crossroads, and then the trail just stops, as if you are lifted into the air. Just 16 days later, you are Frida Langer, a 53-year-old woman hiking with her cousin. You slip and fall in a stream. You tell your cousin you're going back to the campsite to change your wet clothes. It's a short, half-mile walk on a clear trail. You never arrive. Your body is eventually found 7 months later in an area that had been searched exhaustively, but the cause of your death could not be determined. This cluster of disappearances in such a small area, in such a short time, has led to all sorts of speculation. And here is a truly strange piece of local lore that serves as our weird tidbit. Long before these modern disappearances, Native American legends spoke of the Glastonbury area as cursed ground. They used it for burial, but refused to live there, believing the 4 winds met on the mountain, and that it was a place where one could be swallowed by the earth. They also told stories of a man-eating stone, or a creature that could absorb people. It's the kind of folklore that's easily dismissed until people start vanishing in ways that defy logical explanation. So, what happened to you in all these different forms? Historians still debate whether the Bennington Triangle is a genuine paranormal hotspot or simply a collection of unrelated tragedies given a spooky name by journalists. The rational explanation is that the wilderness in this area is unusually treacherous. The weather can change in an instant. There are abandoned logging roads, hidden wells from old homesteads, and dense, disorienting forests. It's entirely possible that each person fell victim to the elements, an accident or foul play, and the pattern is just a coincidence, amplified by sensational reporting. Mitty Rivers could have had a heart attack and fallen into a crevasse. Paula Weldon could have gotten lost and died of exposure. James Tedford might have gotten off the bus earlier without anyone noticing and met with an accident. But the alternative theories are far more compelling to the imagination. Is there, as some paranormal investigators suggest, a dimensional portal in the Bennington Triangle? Did you all accidentally step through a doorway into another time or place? Or is the culprit something more akin to a UFO abduction or a Bigfoot-like creature, as some locals have claimed to see in the area? The case of the boy, Paul Jeffson, whose scent trail ended so abruptly in the middle of a road, is particularly difficult to explain rationally. The Bennington Triangle remains an enigma, a place on the map where the border between the known and the unknown seems particularly thin. It's a reminder that even in our mapped and settled world, there are still pockets of wilderness that hold their secrets close, places where you can turn a corner on a familiar path and simply step out of existence. The forest grows quiet now. The last light has faded from the sky, leaving only the deep, velvety blackness between the trees. The wind whispers through the pines, a sound that could be a voice or just the air itself, sighing over lost things. All the stories we visited tonight end in the same profound quiet. An empty cockpit over a silent ocean. A word carved on a post in an abandoned village. A ship drifting with its sails full of wind, but empty of life. A chair overturned at a lonely lighthouse. A smoking ruin on a snowy Christmas morning. They are questions without answers. Stories without a final chapter, hanging in the air like dust motes in a sunbeam, forever unsettled. But the search for answers, the telling and retelling of these tales, is its own kind of memorial. It's how we keep these lost souls from being truly forgotten, by holding a space for them in our own minds, in the quiet moments before sleep. And now, that quiet is here for you. The journey is over. The mysteries can rest. The whispers from the past can fade, allowing the gentle, steady rhythm of your own breathing to become the only sound that matters. Let the darkness be a soft blanket, a safe and peaceful harbor. There is nothing to solve, nothing to fear. There is only rest.